All right, everyone. The audio quality may be a little bit lower because obviously, I'm in Europe. That has been revealed. I'm not telling you quite where yet because there's going to be a big video announcement. It's going to be really cool. I think most people will really enjoy it. But I didn't bring the AT2020 because I figured I could shove it in my luggage, but then it could be confiscated. Like they could say, it's too bulky and electronic. It's not like a computer or something. I didn't want to risk having any problems. Because then I'd have to shell out for another one, and it's not that expensive, but it's not that cheap either. It's like have to get one delivered here to a hotel. It's just wrong. By the way, I can't spoon clank at the moment. I feel like I've been neutered. I have to like wood tap instead of spoon clank. I guess we've got to introduce that technology to Europe at this point. We got to talk first about the Mueller testimony. It's weird because I have the backlog of 2 days of material. So we've got the Erica Thomas thing. That's major news. We got the Mueller testimony. That's major. We got Epstein getting probably raped in prison. It's just interesting and also important. I don't even know exactly what to do first. Might as well roll a dice. But the Mueller testimony, I think, sort of takes precedence because it's so boring that it becomes interesting. The Democrats and Republicans, I think, both thought by bringing Mueller forward they would score some sort of major victory. And really, if you look at the highlights, what ended up actually happening? Mueller sat there, he keeps completely to the report, and nothing changes. The Democrats and Republicans are both like claiming a victory. The Republicans claim victory, and they're like, hey, Mueller is telling you now in official testimony that there was no indictment, there was no evidence of collusion. Haha, we win. The Democrats come out and they say, well, he said that he couldn't disprove, obstruction of justice. So, haha, we win. It's impeachable and shit. Ultimately, who's the big winner with the Mueller testimony? I'll tell you exactly who it is. It's Nancy Pelosi. Not the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi specifically. Why? Because it leaves off the table any possibility of a legitimate move towards impeachment. And that means that when people on the far left say, hey, want to impeach, obstruction, collusion and stuff, Nancy Pelosi can ignore them and say, look, what do you expect me to do? But she's going to need to go very public with that. If there is a call for impeachment from the far left, my advice to Nancy Pelosi is make it very visible when you rebuff it. Don't do it in the mean way, because then the far left will just harangue and they'll get even more visible, the opposite of what your party at this moment needs. But be very visible and upfront and say, look, we may think there was collusion. We may think, we have reason to believe there was obstruction of justice. Do the thing that you were doing all along anyway. Pretend like you have some inside just hunch that he obstructed or did something wrong, and then let it go. Let it go and focus on something else. Do the normal orange man bad thing instead of the advanced far left socialistic crazy orange man bad thing. It actually works better, which is the funny part. Now, again, I feel sad about no spoon at the moment. And small cups, it's like an 8-ounce cup. Doesn't even touch you at some point. Time zones are all screwy, and like my body's telling me that it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning right now. It's not 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but I feel like it is. So it's amazing that I can make the videos and sort of be with it. Mueller testimony, it was never going to change anything. The DOJ came out and told him, hey, we are instructing you, stick to the official report. Don't go off kilter and say crazy shit. So what this leads to is a situation where Mueller, I think, kind of wanted to do the speculative what-if thing, and he was being goaded by the Democrats to do these things, but he can't, because then he's in violation of probably some sort of rules and ethics committee bullshit, which, I mean, you can see, as a libertarian, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't really care if Mueller speaks his mind up on stage and says, yes, I think Orange Man bad or whatever. I think that would have been funny. It wouldn't have hurt Trump, by the way. And he looked befuddled. Some people said that he looked demented in the most literal sense. It's possible. How old is Mueller? He's in his 60s or something. I wouldn't expect literal dementia, but I mean, you get someone up there. He's created this lengthy report that probably was a retroactive attempt to justify itself. I've said that all along, and I guess that it's looking corroborated here. He's trying to justify that while not running afoul of the DOJ. He's trying not to run afoul of any ethics rules or something that get him in trouble. He's being goaded by the Democrats and the Republicans in different directions. I can understand why he would sit there and say, please repeat that more slowly, and I'm not sure, and stuff like that. Like the go-to answer for Mueller was, I don't know. This somehow is a victory for the Democratic Party, according to Democrats. According to the GOP, it's an exoneration of Donald Trump. Now, I look at the initial report and I say, as the head of the probe, Mueller's job was to find evidence of wrongdoing and to recommend indictment if that happened. They found no wrongdoing. When people talk about Mueller report, I still spar with leftists that are convinced that the Mueller report somehow led to anything significant. They'll say, well, here's a list of people that got indicted on different charges. An indictment is not actually a finding of guilt. It's an indictment. This is saying we think that you're guilty, we're going to try to prosecute you. That's what an indictment means. Many of those indictments never panned out. They never led to any charges, including notably Flynn, who I believe is still a free man at this very moment. This being, you know, a year later, Flynn is still out and about and does his own thing. Supposedly he was inappropriately, I can't remember which act he supposedly violated. He was talking to the government of Turkey and being an unofficial ambassador. Big mistake, you can't do that. I think getting money for it. Probably should be in jail, although it's like, you know, it's kind of belated at this point. The only major fish that they ever nailed was Manafort on 10-year-old money laundering charges. Like, Papadopoulos still shows up on these stupid lists of here's who Mueller nailed. Lying to the FBI in a topical manner, 2 weeks in jail, and somehow this is significant. If it was a significant crime, you don't get 2 weeks in a county jail. That doesn't happen. No, you get 2 years in a federal prison. That's a significant crime. Two fucking weeks in jail? Yes, Papadopoulos was shitting his pants the entire time. Like he wasn't handled with kid gloves because he was well known. Most of the people on that list who were indicted for something like lying or witness tampering. They weren't, and it had nothing to do with Russia. The whole thing is that the probe itself devolved into a retroactive attempt to justify its own existence. Here's the problem. The probe was opened up on the premise that it was told to the U.S. public, members of the Trump campaign colluded with a foreign state, rigged the election. Big problem, we need a probe. They build the probe based on the Steele dossier, which was, to say, bullshit. Mueller, I think, was partially blameless. That's why he's sitting there pretending he doesn't know anything, because he's trying to exonerate himself at this point. He realizes, I think, at some point that the probe was bullshit. To his credit, I think that he was blameless in that. And then he starts his witch hunt to try to save his own neck. Because he says, well, I can't stop it now that it's begun. I realize that that no reasonable individual would have allowed this probe. Somehow it got put in my lap anyway. I've got to do something, so I might as well go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. I'll nail whoever I can, and I'll look okay. And then I'll be able to, you know, I'll be able to resign, keep my pension, basically, which he successfully did. In that sense, Mueller's a genius. He managed to navigate probably the murkiest political waters that we've seen since the Watergate era, only this time in reverse, because really it's the liberals, the Clintonian sort of allies, creating a situation like this using false intel that was garnered from foreign sources, namely from a British intel agent. That was Christopher Steele. And the fact is, the Steele dossier was bullshit. Most of the charges are minor in nature. Many of them didn't even stick. The probe was a complete fucking failure. Mueller's not a failure, though. What he gets his pension. He wins. You know, he basically usurped the legal system of the U.S. I mean, not by his own fault. He was given this probe anyway by other people. Like the FISA thing was broke down completely. The chain of command at the FBI was all wonky. And Trump spent a year and a half making mean tweets about Mueller, Comey, and everyone else because he knew he was innocent. So that's really, I mean, the Mueller testimony doesn't change that metric. If you believe Trump was guilty, you still do. If you believed he was not guilty, you still do. Ultimately, this is not going to lead to impeachment. It changed nothing. And the fact is that makes it more exciting almost because the Democrats, I think, were expecting more. They were expecting more from the Mueller testimony. They were expecting Mueller to give them something to work with, and he didn't. Which fucks them. They're fucked. That's about all. Peace out.